7G, and G is something we'll talk about later on. The one thing you will be aware already with the 104, it does use an awful lot of sky. The turning performance of this airplane is not its pièce de résistance, I'm afraid. It's only got one engine, it's General Electric J79. It's got afterburner or reheat. That's when it looks as if the tail of the aircraft's actually on fire. That's a technique of pumping neat fuel into the German Tornado. So if you look now to the left, you'll see the lights from the lead aircraft. That's because he's got his gear down. He's coming in at the approach speed, around about 180 knots. That's about 200 miles an hour. And just to give you some impression of the two speed ranges, look underneath and you'll see the number 2 running in at around about 600 miles an hour. So they're still not totally at the end of their life. So coming in again from the left, this time for a formation approach, and be pulling up to 20 degrees and dirty turning in towards each other and then reversing in the opposite direction to go downwind. Below 180 knots, or you let the power come below 80%, you jump out because you can't recover it from then. So now look out to the right, not the left, to the right. You can see the lights again. That indicates that the undercarriage is down as the 2 aircraft approach. The lead, Lieutenant Commander Axel Osterman, with his number 2, Lieutenant Commander Ziggy Smith.
Airways 111 holding, and that's just making an orbit whilst we have a final pass from the F-111.
The big problem for a 111 is against the Starfighter is not sheer speed, but the fact that he can't pull very much in the way of G at all without not so much overstraining the airplane, but just going beyond the limits that the Civil Aviation Authority will allow us. Bearing in mind the airplane does have to carry passengers later on today, and it might get a bit upset if the wings were pointing upwards when they got on. Here it comes then, Golf Papa Scoop Bravo Lima, County of Leicester, BAC 111 400 series. Power going on now and a big bank to the right as he pulls it round. Captain Clark himself is a local man. He's born over at Melton Mowbray and started flying in 1952. Nice shot for cameras. A very competitive airliner right through into the 21st century. Put a lot of bank on there, coming through clean, around about 250 knots. And both spays obviously winding up to quite a lot of power. You can see the smoke trail coming up behind at the moment. That's another advantage the T engine would bring, that it's a much cleaner engine altogether and a much more economical one. And the great advantage of having a more economical engine, of course, is we can actually extend the range. At the moment, the airplane can fly about 1,700 miles with a full load of passengers, cruising at 35,000 feet, and a maximum speed of about 550 miles an hour. Manchester can be quite excessive. Anybody who wants to know anything more about our flights out of Birmingham, or especially the new routes to Munich and Malaga, there is a sales shop for British Airways in Leicester, and they'll be only too happy to help you with any information on that, or indeed on any of British Airways flights out of Birmingham, or to anywhere in the world practically. Here it comes then, one last pass at 340 knots, pulling up as he goes and departing off to Birmingham. I'm sure you'll be quite happy to say thank you very much to Captain Clark, and I'll hand you back now to the normal commentary team for the rest of what should be a very pleasant afternoon's flying. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much indeed. Many people in this, and they used to operate from Whitton for the communications for the senior officers there. As they now out of service, but as you can see, still a very nice.
Certainly give you contrast here at Leicester from the F-104 starters and that noisy opening of the show to the grace of a current modern passenger airliner in the British Airways BAC-111.
Aircraft that are now privately owned but still maintain their attitude. This is one of the reasons, of course, why Spencer Black, when it comes to the Hunter, when he originally bought it, decided to opt for the red colour, because the Royal Air Force wouldn't allow him to paint it in camouflage colours, so he opted for the red, which of course was the colour of the Hunter that originally broke the speed record with, I think it was Peter Twist in it, so to keep some...
Well, the Devon is now coming in for a landing after that display. As we say, that was a substitute item for the Quickie 2, which couldn't be with us. And very shortly, we're going to pass the microphone across to one of the experts with the Extra 230 commentary. Just let me take an opportunity to thank Sturgis for the loan of the most magnificent Range Rover that we're using today. The display organizer, John Whitaker, is using to move around the airfield. We're very grateful indeed to Sturgis for the loan of that magnificent vehicle.
Okay, well, as the Devon just clears down there, I'll hand over immediately to
where Nigel Lamb, one of the Marlboro Aerobatic Team pilots, was giving us a display of his own individual flying skills, demonstrating some of the manoeuvres which are flown in competition aerobatics, not only at national but also world aerobatic championship level. Just realizing the preceding item, which there should have been, the Quickie aircraft, the thought occurred to me it's rather a shame it couldn't appear, as there's nothing quite like a Quickie on a Sunday afternoon, I always think. But back to the flying, as Nigel Lamb demonstrates how the aircraft can very rapidly roll about its own axis, the rate of roll of 300 degrees a second. What that is that the only way you can get coloring these smoke trails, for example, like the red arrows have, and the smoke trail coming out on the underside of the aircraft fuselage, that means that the colour dyes wouldn't discolour the fabric. And knowing the way that responsibilities go, and fortunately out in the Marlboro Aerobatic Team, it would probably fall to the lot of the commentator, that is yours truly, to clean the dies off the underside of the aircraft after each display. So I personally think white colour float looks very good indeed. Nigel showing us a very effective stall turn there. Well, you may be wondering how Nigel acquired the skills to demonstrate an aircraft the way he's doing now. He was born in what is now Zimbabwe, and unfortunately he recovered from that incident and went on to fly the Alouette and Bell helicopter. And he ended his Air Force career as an instructor. Well, now that the Marlboro Extra is an aircraft you may have seen around some of the displays earlier on this year. Not flying too many because we were keeping the aircraft ready, first of all, for those throughout the country. So you may have the opportunity to see it flying again. Showing some of that 300-degree rate of roll I was talking about earlier. And their two-flick rolls, a manoeuvre which the Marlboro Extra performs very well indeed. I said it has.
Of course, one of the reasons that a lot of people use these sort of aircraft is they can get into much smaller airfields close to their destination, and when time is money, then this is the sort of the aircraft that a businessman would opt to use. This, of course, in some ways is in direct competition. But the aircraft are based fairly close to here, down at Coventry Airport, and they're operated by their own pilots. I mentioned air ambulance. Of course, again, that's been the policy of operating air ambulance service to repatriate people on sick or injured when they're overseas. And of course, again, is of interest to the passengers because really at 40,000 feet you're well above the weather, the turbulence that makes flying a little bit uncomfortable at times.
And injustice. The V2 was built as a side-by-side two-seat trainer, the first prototype of which was flown from Bruff. Well, they say very strong, but when you look at it by today's standards, one wonders, but that's what we're told. It was made very strong to withstand the hard knocks of instructional flying, and it's got fabric-covered steel and duralumin main planes with an all-metal semi-monocoque fuselage. That sounds very modern, doesn't it? It used to sound like a Grand Prix car or something, but when you look at it, you see that it is anything but very modern. It's a quite delightful vintage aircraft. Blackburns were fitted with a variety of engines, including the 120 horsepower UC3 and 150 horsepower Blackburn Cirrus. This aircraft is powered by the Gypsy Major, and it's the last surviving aircraft of its type, so a very, very important vintage aircraft. Two of the types were built, and those were built between 1931 and 1937. War broke out, all the Blackburn fleets were merged together after us, and it became and continued in that form up until February 1942, so there are many a 38 built. And this one received its first certificate away with us in 1936. Still based in RAF, so keeping faith with the long tradition of that. So it's looked after with absolute loving care, and as you can see from its appearance, that's very readily believable. And rather below the belt, who left the aircraft out of their loving care. I'm sure that's not true, but I'm sure it's just as much delight in seeing it do the job as it's intended to. Flown today by John Chandler, and is accompanied on this flight, if you look very closely, by his son, Stephen Chandler. John Chandler's an ex-World War II RAF pilot, ex-airline pilot, and ex-British Aerospace test pilot. And multi-pistol jet pilots on board 100 different types of aircraft. Management services, British Aerospace, very much up front. This aircraft built there.
Down to about 5,000, 4,500 to 4,000, linking up, down to about 3,000, 2,500, as they break away from each other downwind, check exactly where they are, check their drift. As you can see on top, on the blue and white canopy is Paul Beck. Next one down on the Rainbow Comet is Glenn Morris. Just below him is the team leader, Nick Everett. And below that, on the orange and brown Pegasus, is Dave Foster. They're getting the flags out now, flying the flags for Cox's Motors of Leicester as they're heading towards the target area. The target area today is actually right in front of the crowd line, so remember, those of you in front of the crowd line, as they're coming down towards you, give them plenty of encouragement. Now, as you can see, Nick there has actually flown his parachute backwards. A very, very dangerous and difficult manoeuvre, but in Nick's capable hands, it's very, very interesting. He's going to do it again now, so watch that smoke disappear in front of him as he actually flies that parachute backwards. That's one of his favourite tricks. It is capable hands. It's a very, very interesting manoeuvre. They're now actually heading in towards the crowd line, so come on, those of you in front of the crowd line, give them plenty of encouragement. This first man down is Glenn Morris, right at the end of the crowd line. Next man down, team leader Nick Everett. Let's hear a round of appreciation for them. Heading in towards the crowd line again is the third man down, Paul Beck. And last but by no means least, Dave Foster. Ladies and gentlemen, the Airborne Services Parachute Display Team brought to you today courtesy
The wing collapsed on him during some manoeuvres. He managed to get it back on the ground, but in rather a lot of bits, and Richard was fairly badly injured in the... But he's now fully recovered, and as you can see, despite the fact that he admits that getting back in the aircraft the first time was a little tense, to say the least, back he comes with this superb display. Its special was designed some 35 years ago. It originally had only a 60 horsepower engine. It's steadily been involved over the years. It's still very, very popular in the display circuit, certainly on the unlimited level of aerobatic championships is registered Golf Oscar Delta India Greek. This one 6-seaters in the UK. They were made, in fact, from plans supplied by the Pitts factory in the USA. It began as a standard S1S, and that in fact had a 180 horsepower engine, but it's been modified and refined by Richard with the aim of producing what he thought would be the most capable display aeroplane. In fact, there is a compromise between power and the actual weight. You get more powerful engines, but they're heavier, and therefore you affect the handling characteristics of the aircraft. Now, bearing in mind that the first Pitts had a 60 horsepower engine, this one is equipped with a 270 horsepower engine. Second of the rear section is Peter John. Turning the tips of America at Dallas in 1943. Served with the South African Air Force in World War II. Training plan.
It's a very attractive one too.
Serving officer with the Royal Air Force. He currently flies the Hawk at the Tactical Weapons Unit at RAF Harrier. Previously flown the Buccaneers. In fact, started flying the Harvards in 1978. He's also flown the Yak-2 and the Pilot. Can also be used in the medical evacuation role, and that can carry up to 74 stretchers. It's mainly used, of course, in the freighting role by the Royal Air Force, though there are 4 that have been modified for in-flight refueling, and they're used down in the South Atlantic to refuel the Phantoms that we operate in the air defense role for the South Atlantic. It's got a rear-loading ramp door, and in fact 2 para doors, the left, so that really is the concept of the caisson approach, but we're not seeing that at the moment. You can see the gear is down, the aircraft slowed to its approach speed. The 2 tanks you can see underneath the wings, in fact, are long-range tanks. But again, some Hercules have been modified to carry drones and all sorts of other things under the wing. Very versatile aeroplane. And as the aircraft flies past, you can see the rear ramp door is down. I don't see the left master standing on the back waving. That tends to be a trick more. Oh yes, there's someone on the back. Give him a wave.
Max is not the prettiest of aircraft, but then it's not built to be pretty. Hercules is the aircraft from which the RAF Falcons normally jump and go on to Westmoreland. In 1938, the original concept was Woodland went ahead and sanctioned for a light bomber with a range of 1,500 miles and a bomb load of 1,000 pounds, and the Mosquito coming in from your right was the result. A contract had been placed for 50 aircraft on Thursday and then mated together. performance during the early flights astounded even the manufacturers. Built as a bomber, it had quite a light maneuverability. And after only 3 months of trials, the Mosquito established itself as the world's fastest operational aircraft, a distinction that it was to enjoy for the next 2.5 years. Bombers and fighters were operational by May 42, and from then on all three were 500-pound bombs, instead of the 4 250-pounders originally intended. Aircraft is being flown today by Tony Craig, who first learned to fly on Tiger Moths at Concorde and Harrier in 1958.
Come in to start the display at around about 360 knots as the aircraft will roll in towards you from the right, inverted. Okay, went in from the right and roll inverted. It doesn't have reheat. This was the aircraft that replaced the Nat and the Hunter as the advanced training aircraft with the Royal Air Force. First flew in 1974 and was delivered to RAF Harrier in 1976. And the Air Force have nearly 200 of these aircraft. Now he's going to start the display by running in upside down. Had a pretty hard push there by minus 3,000 to 4,000 feet, and it's coming back for an 8-point hesitation roll. Operate an aircraft with a weapon system, either dropping munitions or in air-to-air combat. Hence the completely different colour scheme to the Red Arrows Hawks or the training command Hawks. The aircraft's flown today by Guy Bancroft Wilson. He joined the Air Force in 1977. The Phantom low-level air defence role. 3 years in Germany, had a short spell in the Falklands before being posted to Chibnall as a tactical weapons instructor. To any great surprise to you to discover that he's only got a few more weeks to do in this job, because he will be leaving Chibnall soon to go to Scampton to join the Red Arrows. Depart off on the 45-degree line. marks, including the photograph reconnaissance version, had in fact seen service, powered by the Rolls-Royce Merlin and the Griffin engine.
Mike Whitehouse points out to me that it can actually take off in 500 feet of takeoff run if he really gives us the stall capability of the aircraft. There you go. Anybody want to argue whether that was 500 feet or not? At 125 knots as they go through the 90-degree turn away. Marcel, 28 years old, comes from New Westminster in British Columbia. Was with us in the Post House Hotel here in Leicester last night for dinner. And you see the Dash 7 coming in now from the right, 125 knots. There Marcel has got 2,500 hours time. As we see this time, from the left, from the west, the aircraft coming in landing configuration with a gear and flaps down. The aircraft's from 412 Squadron Detachment in Lahr, West Germany, and they're going directly back there from the end of this display. They've got their flight plan cleared by air traffic control here, and when they finish the display in 2 or 3 minutes' time, it's straight back to Lahr in West Germany. That shows you the slow speed characteristics of the aircraft and its maneuverability at slow speed. May not look a very Now a fast run, the 1120 horsepower Pratt & Whitney PT6As being used to full effect. That's not a pretty aeroplane, but certainly a stylish one, if that's not a contradiction. So not only are things happening, as I say, in hotels close to London Airport, but they'll be happening, glittering now. Our German naval friends, Axel and Siggy. Axel and Siggy will be going through their pre-flight checks in the F-104 Starfighters. Mike, would you think they'd be in the aeroplane yet? They've got a lot to do, haven't they, to check out a Starfighter?
No, actually, the Starfighter's basically a fairly simple aeroplane. It won't take them that long. I don't think they'll actually be starting engines till around about 1 or 2. We'll probably be doing the external walk-around checks at the moment. On aircraft like the Tornado, that actually doesn't take a little longer, mainly because some of the complicated cover of the checks now, we reckon they probably only need to do them once a week rather than every day. But the 104 really is a different generation from the new all-electric jets, such as the F-15s, the F-16s, and the Tornadoes. It's a different concept. Strangely enough, both the pilots trying to stay flying the 104. They really don't like the idea of flying the Tornado. When I was chatting to them last night, actually, they finally came clean about why they didn't like the idea of flying the Tornado. There's nothing against the Tornado at all. They go with 90 orders. It's a very, very good observation platform, but you don't have the same running costs as you have for a helicopter. So observations for forestry or checking power lines and pipelines, it was an ideal aircraft for that. And there were people as far afield as Denmark, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Kenya, Australia, involving 2 policemen down on the south coast, which I think put everything very much back for the aircraft. In fact, I think it was only last week where the final Board of Inquiry results have been made public, which in fact totally cleared the aircraft. There was not an aircraft problem at all. The Actually, come with no problems with the aircraft. It was just some of the production problems that had given the aircraft a little bit of a bad name. However, that's now all been sorted out. The aircraft is now back in production. The sales are now starting to be re-established. In fact, what they're doing is not going countrywide to try, or worldwide to try to sell hundreds of the airplanes. They're basically trying to sell them at the rate they can produce them. And that is being very carefully controlled, so no wild promises are being made. And you can see how clearly the pilot can see from that sort of bubble cockpit. It appeared almost as ad hoc misses, and really, as often happens with the speed from the scrapyard by enthusiasts to some degree, there it.
He trained on ship Marlboro Extra and joined BOAC as it was then. He's been with them ever since, and now he's senior training captain on Concorde, and here we see him coming in now. He's running in from the west. The aircraft is clean with nothing hanging down. He's doing 210 knots, and you can see the marked attitude. I'll leave you to watch. Slightly with sun shining on it, and you can also pick out the black engine pods. Tony's just starting the bank away now. Just climbing away gently to repeat the exercise to come in from the left. And this time, if Tony sticks to his program, which I'm sure he will, the Concorde, as we see the Concorde looks its most beautiful on the approach to landing. It looks like a big bird with its nose sitting up in the air, big wings stretched out, and the feet sticking down, ready to touch on the ground. Very emotive, this. He's got all his lights on, you can see. And the engines will be pulling around about 84% full thrust at this moment. That's a normal approach power, about 84% of thrust. And you can see the very marked nose-up attitude, which is why the nose has to go down to 12 degrees for the landing to enable the pilot to be able to see the runway. Ladies and gentlemen, Concorde about to land at Leicester. Satisfying aircraft to fly, and I used to be excited every time I went near it, as indeed I'm sure all the others are too. Here he is now at 190 knots, dirty again, and he's going to turn away from it as he gets closer. Smoke is going on, the gear is coming up, the nose and visor will be being retracted, and they've been cleared by air traffic control to climb to 10,000 feet for their return to London. And all those lucky people on board will be flying back to Heathrow in Alpha Foxtrot before then returning to Leicester. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That was British Airways Concorde.
announcement to program sellers, the program sold out some time ago, would you return your money, please, to the appropriate place that you've been told to return your money to? And with those of you who haven't yet filled in the counterfoil of your raffle ticket, in the centre pages of your programs, and who want to qualify, the information tent or AV printer's van by the end of the display. We shall be making the draw as soon as the display has completed at 5 o'clock, while the Unipass duo leave from underneath Derek Brooks as he fires over in the Seminoles, showing us with the gear down, its low speed handling characteristic. DSP home insurance, shown by which magazine to be up to the centre of the display line. White Carter, of course, though we've always said we've got a short runway here, the Harrier does not need a runway at all. They're going to use it today, because the Harrier can operate off, directly off the ground. The noise you're going to hear soon will be coming from the engine, the Rolls-Royce Pegasus 103 two-shaft vectored thrust engine, vectored thrust, of course, being the secret of the Harrier. The engine, single engine, develops 20,500 pounds of thrust dry, but with water injection that's increased to about 21,500 pounds. Another very quick police message announcement. The group from Holland go back to their car immediately, please. One of their members has to go to hospital. The group from Holland, back to their car, please. There's Mike deciding which way he's going to take off. He's now going from right to left. It's going to get very noisy once he's airborne. You'll see the aircraft first of all in ordinary conventional flight, but once he gets into the hovering phase, then it's going to get awfully noisy. So, conventional take-off, we're going to take off. Accelerating now to some 600 knots for a fast flyby. The aircraft capable of a maximum speed in a dive of Mach 1.3, operational ceiling of over 50,000 feet, and of course with in-flight refueling, it can transit with only one landing between here and the South Atlantic. Sidewinder air-to-air missile. Now the conventional phase of the flight is over, coming around into a fairly tight right-hand decelerating turn, inching the nozzles forward until eventually the aircraft will finish up directly in front of you in the hopper. That is the point, of course, when it's going to get fairly noisy. The development, of course, of the GR.3, currently under trials down at Boscombe Down, is the new generation of the aircraft, the GR.5, or as the Americans call it, the AV-8B, because the Americans also operate a lot of these aircraft. They call it at the moment the AV-8A, but the new one with a new concept of wing or powerful engine will, of course, make the aircraft a much more capable aeroplane and capable of carrying a much heavier weapon.
Certainly one of the advantages we have today with the weather conditions. You can see, in fact, the engine exhaust coming out of the Harrier, so you can see the liquid thrust nozzles moving backwards and forwards as Mike was hovering the aircraft, but again you can probably just detect that those nozzles are now back in the normal conventional flight mode, and once again we're going to have the delight, or I suppose if you're an Argentinian, the horror, seeing one of these aircraft coming in low and fast straight towards you. Conventional flight back to hovering flight, decelerating again through 270 degrees, going back towards the centre of the crowd for the hover. Normally sailing helicopters don't have the chance to bow to the crowd, but as those of you who've been here at Leicester before will know that one of the Harrier's speciality is the bow. So when he comes to bow at you, don't forget to give him a nice wave. Watch for the... I'll tell you about that later. Don't forget... The Harrier GR.3, beautifully displayed for us today by...
Hello.
Where are you? There are currently 7 children. They've been doing a lot of development work on the aircraft, and as I say, the first production F2s were rolled out for the Royal Air Force at Warton in 1984. They were in fact both 2 stickers, operational trainers, and they went down to Boscombe Down. And as I say, the first batch, in fact, if you look now to your right, you'll see with the wings swept fully forward, the ADE. United States Air Force F-111. Sweep forward to 16 degrees. Configuration, wings fully forward, and then would be rather unusual undercarriage. Number 1 down, Sergeant Mark Perry. Number 2, Sergeant Barry Charnock. Number 3, Sergeant Andy Stalker. Number 4, Sergeant Chris Francis with a helmet-mounted stills camera.
Number 5, the team leader, Flight Lieutenant Derek Wolby. Number 6, Sergeant Huskisson. Number 7, Flight Lieutenant Rick Allison. Number 8, Sergeant Bucknell. Number 9, Sergeant Kenny D'Souza. Sergeant Robbie Blaine. And last but not least, Sergeant Chris Headley. Ladies and gentlemen, the Royal Air Force Falcons.
From the left, smoke coming on for the Diamond 9 bend. On the center step. And as they reach the top, they change back into the Apollo formation. And they'll continue now down in the Apollo formation. And those of you with cameras, there'll be a very nice shot coming up as they come in for a close pass from right to left in the Apollo bend. And as they go away, the outside pilots moving forward to form that basic Diamond 9 formation. And the main section pulls up for leader's benefit loop. And now watch the synchro pairs, they split again, smoking that red smoke and the sky, the outline of the heart. And there's the heart, whilst the rest of the formation pierced through for the cascade.